Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. You may recognize our featured guest tonight from Discovery's flagship science show, Daily Planet, and Nova Science Now on PBS. She is the author of the best-selling book, The Reality Bubble, and she is the star and co-director of the film Plastic People, The Hidden Crisis of Microplastics. It's a groundbreaking documentary film on the perils of microplastics and human health, and its Canadian premiere screening takes place tomorrow, May 10th, at the 2024 DOXA Film Festival. Here to explain what microplastics are doing in your bloodstream, she is Ziya Tong, and this conversation is brought to you by Pacific Sands Beach Resort in Tofino. Laid-back luxury, as beachfront as it gets. So Ziya, we all know what plastics are, but what are microplastics?
Microplastics are essentially very small plastics. Essentially, if they are smaller than 5 millimeters in size, then those are microplastics.
Okay, so it seems pretty easy to understand.
Yeah.
Now, I think we all understand how plastic pollutes our world and our environment. I mean, we can think of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in the ocean, but your film talks about how microplastics are actually polluting our bodies.
That's right.
This applies to everyone? Like microplastics are in our body? How do they get there?
Well, we're breathing them this very moment. Every single person who is watching your show is breathing them. That's because we're surrounded by plastic. We don't tend to see it. We forget that this is plastic right here. The table, your entire set is plastic. Your cameras are plastic. The floor is plastic. The paint is plastic. And then all the food that we're eating is plastic, and the water that we're drinking also contains about 83% in one study, tap water contained plastic.
What?
So there's just plastic everywhere in the environment around us. I mean, we're talking the Mariana Trench, the deepest places. They were testing penguins, I was reading this morning, in Antarctica.
Because they're pretty isolated.
They're plastic.
What?
It's in the Arctic. It's in the highest mountain ranges.
In the mountains?
Everest, everywhere. And even surrounding us like a bubble right now, the plastic is floating all around us. I've been calling this movie basically Barbie the horror movie, because that's pretty much what we're facing right now. And the big thing is, the scariest thing is, this is invisible. We can't see it. So it's a lot like the climate crisis, another invisible threat.
Is this a documentary or a horror film?
It's a horror film. It's a horror documentary. Yeah, exactly. So really our goal has been to show people what this threat looks like. And the way I've been describing it is I'm saying it's like an oil spill in the human body.
Now, our human body, this is me at my worst sort of science hat here. Our human body has a lot of filters. So do we just like filter it out? Because I know you said that there's microplastic in our feces. So are we just like kind of putting it out, or is it sticking into our bodies? Or
You're absolutely right, actually. We have several filters in our body, barriers, in fact. So we have the gut barrier, we have the placental barrier, and we have the blood-brain barrier. Unfortunately, these barriers aren't holding up nearly as well as we would have liked. So certainly, the microplastics that you ingest end up in your blood. They're passing through that gut barrier.
Right.
We know that it's passing through the barrier into babies. And I don't want to give too much away, but we do also talk about the brain. We actually get into some groundbreaking research in Turkey, and we meet 2 leading researchers, and we join them in a brain surgery as they cut open somebody's head on camera and take out a tumor, and they start investigating to see what's inside there as well.
What are the broad health risks? I mean, this doesn't sound good to have an inorganic, piece of material in our bodies and everywhere. But what are the health risks for this?
Well, quite a few have been documented, but even if you think about IBS, you probably know somebody who has this sort of inflammatory bowel disease. I know growing up, a lot more people have it. Well, what happens with the microplastics in your body is they get lodged. Not only do they get lodged, and that creates aggravation and inflammation, but when your white blood cells come and attack some sort of bacteria in your system, they kill the bacteria and they go off on their merry way. They can't kill the plastic.
Right.
Plastic doesn't go anywhere. It stays there, and it brings on more and more of these, cells trying to fight the plastic, and they keep dying, and that's what causes a lot of inflammation. So we're seeing it. There was another big study that just came out that didn't make it into our film because it's so recent, and it was in the New England Journal of Medicine. And what they were looking at is the heart plaques, sort of the plaques in our arteries.
Oh, like the buildup? Okay.
Yeah, and the people who had microplastic buildup inside of these arteries were 4.5 times at greater risk for heart attack, stroke, and death. And so we're starting to see a real, not just a correlation, but a real implication when it comes to disease. And so, we have to think, we've been making the planet sick. Maybe we're starting to make ourselves sick as well. And I don't think that that's as much of a leap now as people used to think. We're so clear when we see it with animals, right? You see animals eating plastic. We know that it affects their hormones. It affects the endocrine system. And we're like, yes, of course. And then we're like, oh, but maybe we're animals too, because we are.
When did you realize that this was happening? Is this a fairly new discovery?
Well, the research on microplastics and human health is actually very recent. Wow. Maybe about 5 years old, starting out, So this is the leading edge research that we're looking at now. But the plastics threat has been with us for some time. And so we do know, even with people who've been working in the plastics industry for a long time, people working in the car industry or people working with clothing a lot, that the rates and incidence of cancer there is really quite high. So
and plastic really isn't everything. It is in our clothing when you think about polyester or different materials.
All of that fast fashion that you're seeing today, that's pretty much all plastic. Pretty much all plastic.
You've really established a very dire scenario here.
Sorry. I promise it's a fun film.
but I feel like there's nothing that we're able to do because, as you said, plastic is everywhere. You could go to Antarctica or the highest peaks and you'll still be exposed to it. So what can we do, or is it too late?
No, it's certainly not too late. There's a real great possibility to fight, and that possibility is happening for us right now because there's a global treaty that's taking place right now called the Plastics Treaty, where the world's governments are all coming together. We were just in Ottawa. We screened our film for the delegates there. There's going to be another meeting in Busan. So this is really the time for people to speak up, make sure their politicians hear what's going on, for them to change the policy so that we can reduce plastics dramatically, especially single-use plastics, right? You have to think about how often these days, and I think everybody's frustrated with it. You go to the supermarket and you see cucumbers that are wrapped in plastic. You're going, what is going on? They have a natural coating,
Do I have to give up my plastic straw, though? Because that is something that I still prefer over the paper version.
You're kidding. You don't use a straw anymore, Mo.
Never?
Just get rid of the straw. But the straw is, I want to say, that final straw is actually, it's almost like a red herring. Think about when you go to the supermarket, and people are saying, oh, we're going to ban the plastic bag, which we could do and we should do. Mm-hmm. But when you go into the supermarket and you see every single thing in there, whether it's your ketchup tube or whether it's your
everything is plastic.
Whether it's your shampoo, everything is already in plastic. So we can't be tackling the lowest denominator, right? Like tackling the plastic straw is the nothing burger of the mountain, of the many, many Everests of plastic that we have to contend with. So what we really need to do is we need to reduce the production of these plastic polymers, and we need to do it right now because it's a huge threat. And again, this is the same industry, oil and gas, that brought us the climate crisis that is also burning down all of our forests. So it's time for us to really rise up and say, no more, no more. We don't need it inside of our body. We don't need these oil spills inside our bodies or outside of our bodies.
Well, you've certainly made a case for it, Ziya. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Folks, that was the star and co-director of Plastic People, The Hidden Crisis of Microplastics, which finally premieres in Canada tomorrow, May 10th, here in Vancouver. As part of the DOXA Film Festival, she is Ziya Tong. Thank you so much to Pacific Sands Beach Resort in Tofino for supporting local conversations, even ones about our bodily fluids. Now, after some business, let's talk cannabis and impaired driving with your favorite criminal defense lawyer up next.